Thank you for joining us for this edition of BAYS Breaks, where we take a few minutes to talk about current events and some of the important innovative work that is happening here within our organization. Please remember to like and follow us by clicking on the subscribe button below. And I want to remind you that BAYS is a nonprofit organization that works in partnership with individuals, families, and communities to inspire change, growth, and success. And today we'll be having a conversation with Christian Miner, the Executive Director of the Florida Juvenile Justice Association. Welcome to BAYS Breaks, Christian.
Thanks for having me on, Elvin. And I absolutely love the concept and the opportunity to bring awareness to the great work that's being done by DJJ, its providers, as well as the FJJA.
Well, we're glad to have you. And I have to say, Christian, that I've worked closely with you for quite some time, and it's always been a pleasure to see the positive impact that you have on our community. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how long you have been with the Florida Juvenile Justice Association?
Absolutely. And it's been an absolute pleasure. I've been surrounded by a great team and family here at the FJJA. So I'm originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia, but grew up in the Brevard County, Florida area, and actually started working on local political campaigns there at a young age. Coming up, it's going to mark my 7th year at the FJJA in October. So as to my background, I actually came to Tallahassee, Florida State University to run cross country and track. I'm a 2-time graduate from there, did my graduate program in the Master's in Applied Politics and Policy program there. And then while in grad school, worked on House and Senate campaigns, got to meet a lot of great folks. And from there, went in-house and was a lobbyist for the Florida Osteopathic Medical Association, lobbying healthcare issues. Subsequently, went in-house to lobby for Bridges International, which was the largest provider of community-based reentry services for folks coming out of Department of Corrections in Florida. And that's really what brought me to the FJJA. And 7 years ago, again, they hired me. I also work here in Tallahassee for Converge Government Affairs, which is a multi-state lobbying firm where I get to work on some really unique issues here in the state with some great colleagues.
So tell us more about the Florida Juvenile Justice Association, Christian.
Yeah, well, the FJJA really represents the provider voice. This year actually marks 30 years of its existence. It was created in conjunction with the Department of Juvenile Justice. And really, we work collectively representing all parts of the continuum, from community-based care and redirection and prevention services all the way to deep-end residential commitment programs and transitional services. This is the provider voice, working alongside our partners at the Department of Juvenile Justice, operating under their auspices, and really working to promote policy, best practices, and really financial support, which allows us and our staff to adequately serve our youth, at-risk youth here in the state of Florida, and promote best outcomes amongst those youth and protecting public safety.
So a lot of people may not know about Florida's Juvenile Justice Association, or Florida's juvenile justice system, that it's a hybrid system. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit? What does that mean?
It's a unique system. Again, it's my understanding, I think it's the largest of its kind. And 75% of our system here in the state of Florida is contracted providers. The state still operates detention and some probation, but outside of that, it is privately contracted providers, some for-profit, some nonprofit, delivering services here statewide in our communities under the auspices, oversight, and accountability of the Department of Juvenile Justice. So again, it's a privatized system that has really kind of struck a great balance on how it works and serves our communities. And it's that partnership and that communication between DJJ and its providers that's responsible for the success that we see in our communities.
And so we hear, or I hear a lot, people talk about public-private partnerships, and this is a really, really good example of that, right?
It's a spectacular example. It's great for the taxpayers. It's great for our small businesses here in the state of Florida, and ultimately it ensures that our youth are really getting right size services and the services that best constitute their needs and the needs of their families.
So you've also done a great job working with the legislature to help improve Florida's juvenile justice system over the last 7 years. What are some of the accomplishments that the association has seen over the finish line during your tenure as executive director?
Well, I'd say one of the first ones would have to be with regard to policy that we promoted. Again, I said, the association really works on policy, funding, and best practices. And I was able to work with you, Elvin, in Bay Area Youth Services on House Bill 195. It was a juvenile expunction bill that you helped author. And we had championed by Senator Keith Perry and Representative David Smith out of Seminole County. One of the issues that we were having here in the state of Florida is that we had kids that were being arrested for low-level felony offenses, and they were being committed to post-arrest diversionary programs. We told them, once you complete this program and make good on your promise to not reoffend, you get your second chance. And the issue that we were running into is that as the law currently stood with that, it actually stay on a kid's record until the age of 21, at which point it would automatically be expunged, or they could petition the courts after 5 years. So say a kid commits an offense at the age of 14, he could petition the courts at 19, to have that come off his records and have it expunged. But it really was preventing a lot of these kids from moving on with their lives. The age, of 17 and 18, when they're looking at, college, military, jobs. It could even impact getting student aid and student housing and just housing in general. They were running into these barriers, and we had told them they'd gotten a second chance, and they really weren't getting that second chance. So this bill, it actually took us 4 long years to pass. It took one veto. The governor vetoed it with some concerns, and we finally passed the bill. And I'd say that was really, for me, it was a significant accomplishment because of all the different people and partners that we had that worked together in passing this bill. And it actually, just in its immediate passage, was going to impact 26,000 kids. It's going to help tens of thousands of kids here in the state of Florida get a second chance upon successful completion of a post-arrest diversionary program. More importantly, it's a great piece of workforce development legislation at a time where employers are starving for that workforce. This just allows them to more easily move into and fill those roles. In terms of funding, the association and its membership, they've successfully lobbied to provide close to $10 million in staff retention bonuses for direct care staff over the last 7 years, which is it's a tremendous ROI and investment in retaining these hardworking staff on the front lines. And additionally, over the last couple of years, we've been able to successfully lobby for, a little bit over $20 million to provide our direct care staff with hourly pay increases. And I'm happy to say that after this year, all of our direct care staff will soon be having a minimum starting hourly wage of $19 or higher.
And I really want to underscore a couple of those things there. Number one is that the process is incredibly difficult, right? And so 4 years to pass a bill, it seems like an awfully long time, but the system is designed to be difficult, right? And so what advice do you have to folks that are trying to really make an impact or affect change? And it's easy to get discouraged in that process.
I'm going to go ahead and pull upon my college track days. It's a marathon, not a sprint. It can oftentimes feel like an effort and futility. And the process is supposed to be onerous, and it's supposed to be difficult because we have to remember that we're passing laws, and these laws impact all of the citizens here in the state of Florida. This was a difficult bill because on one aspect, public safety is the cornerstone of everything in the United States of America, particularly here in Florida, where we are a tourism state. And that, when you're kind of reforming laws in the criminal justice system, that's something that's always in the back of your mind, where you have to work with your law enforcement partners on making sure that the legislation sits well with everybody. So, knowing all the partners that have a stake in it, and then again, setting out a plan over the course of a couple of years, and letting people know that it's not a sprint to get there. It is a marathon, but you can eventually cross the line, even if there are setbacks. Would be my best advice to those that are really seeking to implement change, particularly up here at the Capitol.
And then the investments in the workforce and the juvenile justice industry have been pretty remarkable during your tenure as well. And as any employer understands, hiring and training and retaining staff is an important thing. So how did you convey that message to the legislature that it's important to also invest in folks that work with children in the delinquency system or that are at risk of entering the delinquency system?
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that's on the horizon for our association, and kind of some of those priorities and unfinished business that I really want to focus on as we move forward. I would really like to continue on making sure we're competitive in terms of our wages for our staff working on the front lines of our youth. Our work is not done here. Social work is not what it used to be. You really have to love it these days, or you're not going to last. We can't underscore the fact that you can make $21 starting hourly working the cash register at Buc-ee's with paid vacation and retirement. That's a tough sell compared to working with a lot of our at-risk youth that are being paid. These folks are being paid less in a much more challenging environment. I'd also, really like to continue to focus on drafting and passing policy that holds our kids accountable for their actions, but also recognize the opportunity for them to learn from their mistakes and be afforded a second chance. It's a difficult but needed balance. And, kind of going back to our staff and continuing to invest in them, if we can change these kids' trajectories through our direct care staff and we can help keep families whole and increase public safety, ultimately, this is saving taxpayer dollars and making our communities better. So that was really kind of the messaging that we had when we were talking to the legislature. This investment, just in a few dollars hourly, has much larger overarching consequences and impacts here in our communities, particularly statewide when it comes to public safety here in Florida.
Excellent. Any other priorities or unfinished business that you see coming down the pipeline in terms of the legislature?
I would really like to continue to focus on policy in the area of expungement of people's records. Again, workforce is needed here in the state of Florida. This is an area when we talk about expungement where people may have been arrested, but not necessarily convicted of a crime, nor were they guilty of a crime. The burden of proof for an arrest is very low. You can be wrong place, wrong time, wrong situation. We know that people are fallible, and we know that law enforcement officers have a difficult job. So an arrest could be made where it maybe shouldn't have resulted in that. And I really think that in that case where a crime hasn't been committed, where there's a wrongful arrest, there needs to be greater opportunities for folks to expunge those off their records where there's not this barrier that prohibits their gainful employment. I think that this is something that is going to benefit the state taxpayers and ultimately help create more taxpayers here in the state of Florida. So that's an area I think we've seen a lot of bipartisan support, not only in both chambers, but on both sides of the aisles for that type of an appetite for that type of legislation.
All right, well, we'll move on to some lightning round questions to close things out here. So the first one is, if you could have dinner with anybody dead or alive, who would that be, Christian?
Man, that's a tough one. I think most people lean towards historical stuff. I think for me, it'd probably be my high school AP European history teacher, Mr. Green. He passed away 2 years ago, was a dear friend of mine, and I was with him in the hospital the last 2 weeks before his passing, and I wish I had more time to tell him the impact he had on my life and how he changed his trajectory. 15 years, over the course of having graduated high school, we'd always get together once a year for lunch or dinner. And it was like I was back in third period, European history. We never missed a beat. He taught me a lot in terms of life, but frankly kept me from a really troublesome path that I was going through in high school. And, I wish I had more time with him.
And how about the advice you would give your younger self?
Another one. I let it go. I know it sounds simple. Let it go. It's not that serious. I think we see not only in the work that we do, serving kids, but just in general in life, we oftentimes get caught up in ourselves and our own personal problems and don't realize that everyone else is going through something similar. And this often impacts how we treat others, how we perceive them, and how they view us. And, looking back on it, I tell myself, just let it go. We all have a personal battle to fight. Focus on that battle.
That's great advice. And the last one is, what is your favorite thing about working in the juvenile justice industry?
It's super cliche, but the success stories. But I think with the caveat, not just of the kids though, but the staff that are serving our kids. I love every year when we get to bring those staff up to Tallahassee and honor them at the DJJ, FJJA legislative reception with our Service Excellence Awards. Oftentimes at the Capitol, I'm getting credit when something good or big happens at the Capitol, but our direct care staff, those are the real heroes. Those folks are. They work long hours and tough jobs for low pay, and we forget that they have families of their own and kids that they go home to as well. And I'm so incredibly proud of our FJJ members and all of their direct care staff and the work that they do day in and day out on serving kids and families in Florida.
Yeah, we owe a great debt of gratitude to every person that dedicates their professional life to working with folks and their children in the juvenile justice system for sure.
Yeah, I could not agree more.
All right. Well, Christian, thanks for joining us for this edition of BAYS Breaks. I want to remind everybody that BAYS believes in the value and worth of all people and their ability to change, grow, and succeed. And please don't forget to follow us and subscribe to our channel by clicking on the description below. And for more information about BAYS, you can check out our website at www.bayskids.org. See you next time.